Welcome to another episode of Love Notes.
All nurses to the nurses station.
This is Taquita Love, a nurse and a comedian.
You think you could bring your brother the clear machine home? You know, the reviver.
And I'm talking to my funny friends about medical mishaps.
Clear!
You are listening to Love Notes.
You guys, I want to welcome to Love Notes none other than the hilarious, energetic firehouse of a comedian, Sterling Scott.
Man, I really appreciate that intro. I was wondering if you'd remember that, man. That was at the Parlor in Seattle when we auditioned for NBC Diversity. Yeah, that was wild, man. I drove all the way down. I drove 12 hours from Canada to Seattle just so I could do that audition, and I only had a 3-minute 3-minute performance. The stuff we've done, man. God damn.
Oh yeah. What was so I know that's how I met you. I know I didn't make it to the second round.
I made it to the final night, the night before that you go to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't get picked. I've made it to that part every time.
Okay.
I've done it 3 times now, the NBC Diversity, and every time I make it to that final night,
Mm-hmm.
and then I never get selected to make it onto the finals. But I mean, you just got to keep swinging until you hit something, right? You only got to hit one time in this game in order to make it.
And yeah, and you pretty much need one person to be like, he's good, you know?
You know what I mean? And you just need that one person to follow through with it, because in 2016 I did meet Kevin Hart. I performed on season 1 of LOL at JFL.
Yes.
And I was in season 1, episode 1. And when I finished, Kevin Hart himself came backstage to find me. And he was like, "You are phenomenal." He's like, "You are an amazing comedian. Thank you so much for being here." And then the very next day, I pitched to him a TV show idea, and I got a development deal with the LOL network.
Yes.
But then the LOL network, man, look, whew, let me tell you something. When they tell you when Hollywood is hurry up and wait, that's what it is, because
Of course.
they made me rewrite the pilot episode an unprecedented like 10 times, and then change the entire direction of the network.
Uh-huh.
And then they asked me to write different scripts instead. I wrote 8. I got rejected 8 different times.
Uh-huh.
On the last time I went in, they accepted the pitch, and then I never heard from them again. And that was the end of that.
But that was in 2016. Yeah, it is
2016, but I was in meetings till the summer of 2018 is when, you know what I mean, I felt like I was just being given the runaround, because I was flying out to Los Angeles on my own dime to sit down with these people and pitch these TV shows, get rejected, get on a plane, go back home, write again, come back again, and just keep doing it back and forth. I was in all over the place trying to get this show going, because I thought that, you know, I mean, at the time, Kevin Hart was at his highest level. He had just done a football stadium, unprecedented football stadium, sold it out in Philadelphia. And this is the same guy who's now standing next to me saying, you know, in quoting in there's a newspaper article about him talking about me, being like, everything this guy does is hilarious. I don't know what it is about him, but this guy is for real. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna make it. I made it. Kevin Hart at his highest level. You know what I mean? That's kind of like having Beyonce tell you that you can sing. So
I'm like, when you gonna put me in can I sing with you, Beyonce?
You know what I mean? But then nothing came of it. But it just allowed me, you know, it just reassured me though that my journey is real, and that I'm on the right path. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna meet a lot of comedians in this game, and very few of them will ever really do a lot for you. But when you get to meet, you know, Kevin Hart's comedic rock star, and at that level, for him to come and look for me, like actively search me out backstage, was like, "Do you guys know where that guy is?" And came and found me and talked to me. He's very short. He looked like a strong 14-year-old. He just, like, you know what I mean? He just looked like he played football in grade 8. Like, but he was a super, super nice guy. And one of the most positive people I ever got to meet. His energy was amazing. I'm thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for the shout out he gave me because
Yeah.
I'm still using that credit to this day, baby.
You know what's crazy? When I met you, your energy was ridiculous. I hadn't heard of you, and it was like, yo, who is this dude? And then I think we connected because I have friends in Canada, actually Toronto. And I think that was like the link that was like, oh yeah,
We had
but
multiple links. We had the friends in Toronto, and our major link was Ida Rodriguez
oh yes, 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 because
because I had just worked with her in Canada.
mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, I know." I'm like, "Oh, I work with this lady." And you're like, "Oh my god, I love her." And then we messaged her, and she was like, "I love both of you guys."
Yeah, that was it's so dope.
Speaking of her, she is doing amazing. I mean, she got on that Netflix with She Ready,
Yes,
and just been just tearing it up with so much different things. And I'm so happy for her, man. And
yeah,
she's like a genuinely good person. Like whenever I was doing auditions in LA, she'd come down and watch.
yeah,
And so, you know what I mean? Like that kind of love, you know what I mean? There's nothing to gain from it. It's just there's nothing to gain from hanging out with me or anything. I'm not anybody special. So to have somebody who really cared and actually looked out and came down and showed some support, her and Emery, they were fucking gems, man. And just thank you for them.
a lot of my jokes come from dark places, and like, like she would encourage me, don't give up on that joke. When I was a babe in comedy, like a little itty bitty baby, it was like she kind of, you give people the game by like showing by example, and also by like, little pull ups, or like maybe I'm hosting the show and she's on and we talk about life, and I mean, she's dope. So I think that was
Yeah.
the Ida Rodriguez. You were the link for me and Sterling to
Yeah,
become
I
cool.
remember we called her at the bar, and she was like, "Ah!" And that's also when I was very young in comedy. What year was that? I think that was like 2014, 2015, something like that. It was it was a long time ago. It was a long well, for us, it was a long time ago, man. Because right now, I'm at 13 years.
Okay.
As of September, I've been doing comedy 13 years. I've been professional, like full-time, no job except comedy for the last, I'd say, 8 years.
Oh, okay. That's dope.
So, I can't remember when I did that, but I know when I still do all those kind of excursions where it's like, because being a comedian from Canada, it's like you said, people don't know who I am. And in Canada, they don't do too much to try to embrace their talent. And so the only way to try to get out from under the thumb and oppression of clubs and shady agents and horrible road tours was to make a name for yourself so that you can write your own ticket. And the
Right.
only place I saw that happening was in America. Like your hustle, your grind, your work ethics in America, it's beautiful. And it really is a land of opportunity because if you put your head down and grind, you can make something of yourself. Like a lot of the people who met and worked with have gone on to do amazing things. I was in competitions with Matthew Broussard, who ended up is now working for Comedy Central and was
Yeah.
on different specials. I worked with Guy, who ended up getting a TV show and hosting the big gay TV show. I can't remember what he calls it. I worked with Tony Baker, who is now, not only is he hilarious in person, but his online persona. I work with
Yeah.
Ryan Davis. You know what I mean? Like the list goes
Yeah.
on for all
Mhm.
these people who I've met on all these journeys who
Yeah.
I've seen grow and blow up and do well and deservedly so. And so I know if they can do it, well, then I can do it too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for Kevin Hart to come find you and, not be intimidated by your height. Um, and to be like, I mean, you have the talent, like hands down. And I think what you mentioned was that like a lot of it has to do with location, opportunity, networking, and in the whole hurry up and wait thing. You couldn't have said that better because it's kind of like like when I did Laughs on Fox, right? And I was just like, "Oh, I made it," you know.
Yep, I remember Labs on Fox.
And then, I was just like, but that's not, it's such a journey. And it's like every step of the way is necessary for the next step, you know?
Mhm.
Like it's kind of like the fact that you pitched all these things and it didn't blossom yet, it could just be setting you up for something else. Like, would you produce your own,
Oh,
web series,
yeah.
or
I
your
would
own?
definitely. I've actually, been thankful for that because of the fact that now I've been writing my own pitches and been pitching now, and now because I've been in so many of these meetings, I know what they want. I know what you know what I mean? I know what a pitch deck is. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? I know how to present, I know how to perform. You know what I mean? Like you got to know how to do the dance. It's not like when you go in there's like a certain way and format and style that these people like to see in order to get the idea of your TV show. And
Right.
basically you got to at first I was going in being like, all right, I'm gonna hit them with this, stuff that they never heard before. And they would always be like, we don't know what you're talking about. And it's like the way that you would have to pitch your TV show, you'd have to then relate it to a bunch of other TV shows. You're like, okay, we got a little bit of something like this that's going on like that. And all right, and it's gonna be centered just like how we did like this. All right. And then you gotta give it some, you gotta spoon feed it to them because the sad thing about our industry is that it's not artists who are paying for the production of art. It is
Exactly.
artists asking for money from people who don't know what art is. And all they know is what a trend is, what's trending, what's
Mhm.
happening. But they have no clue what is actually good. Because if they did, then TV wouldn't be dead. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the way it is at this moment. But I hate it, the fact that, what I'm saying? Somebody who cannot do what you do is going to tell you what you do if it's good or not. You
That's
know?
crazy. I mean, I feel like that's true in a lot like life in general. It's like, with me and my background of being a nurse, and the whole pandemic hit, and then there was, this thing about PPE and running out. And I'm like, the people making the decisions on the PPE, are not the ones on the front line, because
Yeah.
it's because like I seen videos with people wearing garbage bags at work, and like, and it was something like you could wear your mask, for 2, 3 days, or for the whole day, and it's just like, who making these decisions and these rules? Because it's not somebody that's in the world. And I definitely could see the correlation with entertainment because it is like that. Like I've had the opportunity to pitch shows, and you learn that people don't want to read a bunch of stuff. And
Mm-mm.
and it's one of those things too with like auditioning. It's like we know what we don't know what we want until we see it. And that's like a flip. It's kind of like, we write a description of what we're looking for, but then normally you go in and you just be what it is that they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know. They have no clue.
And I think that, because it's like, you want to make it easy, you want to make it funny, you want to make it quick, you want to make it, it
Yep.
got to be solid, and I think there's this stigma of we want something new, we want it to be old. Like
Yeah,
it's
we want
like
give us
they say,
something original that's already been done.
you learn how to play a game. And that, what, it's crazy though, because growing up, this is how the household I was raised in. Like my mom always taught me like how to interview for jobs, right? And it was like she gave me like a list, always ask a question, and we would role play, and she would be the boss. And why do you want this job? And are you looking professional? And like all of that stuff in the interview, when you get to the job, none of that stuff really matters, and I
Nope.
just kind of like, let me just get in. And I think that's the game that people don't understand when it comes to business or show business. It's just like, the people making the decisions, like you said, they're not necessarily the ones that are, in the trenches and like know the comedy or the idea as much as you know it. So
Or
I
even
think
understand the process of art. Like I
yeah.
understand they're the one, like you said, they're not in the trenches. They're just the one that cut the check. But the thing that is annoying to me is that they what it is that they don't understand that the process of art is that there should be failure. I mean, there's gonna be shows that are made that are terrible, uh, but it's in our mistakes that we find the correct answer. It's like when you tell a bad joke. right? When you tell a joke and it doesn't land, does it mean that the joke wasn't good? No, it just means you got to change a few words, do a few things. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden now you have a good joke, right?
Yeah.
But with the creating process, they look at it like if they get something wrong, they get fired, or I guess they lose their money. I don't know whatever the thing is, but they hold on to that coveted TV deal. But the funny thing is, they will then pitch a TV show, which is terrible. And you know it's terrible because it'll be some stupid combination of trigger words that, is trending right now. And then they'll fail that show. And then they will be like, oh, well, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, because you're not an artist. You don't create. You just cut the check. So, as much
Oh,
as that process was tiresome, it was, like I said, another chapter in the book. That's what I always call it, another chapter
yeah.
in the book, because nobody on their journey to success was just everything's going right, everything's going right. Now I'm successful. Like
Yeah.
every single person who's ever made it in this comedy game and in life, they've had to go through a whole lot of hell to taste a
Yeah.
little bit of heaven. And so every single step I take, that's not heaven is just another chapter. It's just, hey, this is just another page because fortunately for me, my passion is also my career.
Yeah.
So even if I don't make it, I love what I do. I'm talking to you currently right now. I just finished headlining a comedy festival and recording an album. It during a pandemic, and it's hard as hell to do these kind of things right now. But
Yeah.
it's like it's the passion that pushes through and finds the way.
Yeah.
Because if you really love what it is that you do, then you will find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what this pandemic has taught me. It showed me a lot of people who I know. I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of people who I know in Canada, a lot of them when the pandemic hit, they just didn't care anymore. They just were like, I don't even care about comedy. I don't know. And then other people got up and made stuff happen. I had a friend who started doing backyard shows. It
Uh-huh.
became so popular, he ended up doing 167 shows since May.
Wow.
And he's just been on the road now doing these backyard comedy shows. That
Yeah.
guy loves comedy. Whatever he's trying to pursue, he eventually will get there. Because when all the chips were down and everything was taken from him, he created a new lane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Podcasts went through the roof. Fine, good. Give a voice to your comedic expression. Give us personality. I love the fact that there's more podcasts because it lets me get to know who these people are individually.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm like good with it. Keep going. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
In response to what you were saying is that like I learned that people deal with stress in different ways. Like some people I knew they were just like work 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 work, and some people are like it's the end. Let's just party it out. And like you really get to see how people operate and the work ethics that people have in times like this. I still worked as a nurse and it's a pandemic and I work in research. So everybody was like, I have nothing to do and I'm bored. And I was just like, like I'm working.
Yeah.
This is like a part of history and all that. But then on the other side, it was like the thing that keeps me balanced with being a nurse and dealing with, people dying and dealing with, the stressors of work is I can get on stage and I could curse a doctor out on stage. I can't do it, you know, and I miss the connection with my comedian friends. It's just like
Yes.
in some green rooms, it feels like I'm in my grandma's basement and we all chilling. I might not like such and such, but we all cousins, so they a part of the crew too. That stuff it makes a difference in your life, and I think that's where I'm at right now, where it's like, like how can I stay connected to people and comedically, but also get to know them because look, I've been learned so much about people during these podcasts, and I don't think I ever learn in a green room. Maybe a road trip, but not in a in a green
Yeah,
room.
the road trip is the greatest. That's when you really get to meet the human behind the jokes.
Right. Like, "You crazy as
You're
hell."
like, "Oh, this guy's crazy for real. Okay, all right. You're annoying."
I know you mentioned, that you worked before comedy. What did you do before comedy?
Before comedy, I was just pretty much like a working hand. I was a pipe fitter, which is a person who builds pipes that transport fuel. So like I build pipelines for oil and gas and coal and water.
Mhm.
And then before that, I was just working in any factory job, any warehouse dumb job that just needed a warm body. That's where I was. And then my final job before actually quitting was working at a gym. I was doing signing up memberships. Well, actually, I didn't sign up memberships. Literally, you're supposed to do 20 memberships minimum per month. And
Mhm.
they would call me into the office and they said, Sterling, what is your goal this month for memberships? And I'm like, 20. And they go, that's the minimum. And I go, nobody is trying to overshoot right now. And they're like, what is wrong with you? I never, ever made the minimum amount of sales, but they
Shut
wouldn't
up.
hire me because of my attitude, my personality. It was genuinely my office was the party place. I literally had managers chase employees out of my office, close my
Mhm.
door, and then sit down with me for the next half hour laughing. And I'm like, you guys are all problems.
That's dope. That's when you know your gift is what it is. Like when it shines everywhere. Like I had a patient that I rapped to.
Mhm,
Um and this was so crazy. I was a travel nurse and I'm at work, like and I worked with kids with cancer, pediatric oncology, that's my background.
mhm.
And I had a patient who was like a teenager and like literally like I'm from Chicago, he was from Chicago. I was working in LA at the time. But we had rap battles and it was just like that's when I knew that like, like I'm finna give you this, I'm finna give you this narcotic and then we finna freestyle. Like and it was like that part of me, like, it doesn't go away and like it becomes more apparent the more that you be comfortable with who you are.
Mhm.
But that's dope. That's dope. I could see you selling or not selling memberships,
Yeah,
but
not doing a damn membership. I had people in my office every day laughing, and then they would just go home because I didn't really, like in the gym, what they do is they first got to sell you on their own lie, and then that way you can believe in it to sell it to another person.
Mhm,
And the same selling techniques that they were teaching us to use, they were implementing on us. And I would
mhm,
be sitting in the meeting whispering to my manager because my manager was a really good salesman. He was such a good salesman that they gave him the general manager position in his own gym. And
mhm.
so I'm sitting there and I'm listening and I go, hey, you know that they're doing everything to us, what they're telling us to do to the members. And he starts laughing and he goes, how did you see that? And I'm like, well, literally, they're selling us this idea. The gym literally told me that it's okay to lie to people to give them a membership because you're saving their life. And I'm like, you're lying to me.
Believe in if you take care of your body, it could help save your life. So
Yeah,
is there
no, it could, but they would tell me it's okay to tell somebody something like this, ma'am, if you don't get in a gym right now and sign up and take this training from this personal trainer, you will die. And it's like, no, they're not going to die, but it would help them. It would benefit them. But that costs $3,600 for that package. And not everybody's just walking around with that when they walk into a gym. And so I would get that. And I'd be like, look, man, you could just buy a membership and just use the machines, walk around a little, man, just be active, sweat 30 minutes a day. And they're just like, why are you giving away information to the people? Just let
yeah.
them come in the gym. And I'm like, well, because, they're poor. It was $3,600. That is so much money.
But and what kind of gym?
And for the average, could you imagine when you walk into a gym, you're thinking what, like $50 a month? And I
Days?
hit you with a $3,600 bill. You're like, I don't know if I'm ready for this commitment. My car is not worth $3,600.
Oh wow. Yeah, but
So
I
yeah, so I didn't like that. The you know, I felt bad for people who couldn't afford it, and I just gave them an alternative in which they didn't have to spend money. Unfortunately, that was not my job. My job was to get the money, and I wasn't good at it. But they were really nice to me. They let me go to Iraq. I took off work for a month and a half to go to Iraq, Dubai, Kuwait, Afghanistan. They let me go. They let me go and pursue comedy. They let me leave every day an hour early because I was getting paid on salary. They would let me leave an hour early to get to shows. They didn't care. And then eventually I made more money doing comedy than I was at the gym. And then I
Mhm.
let the gym go. And when I let the gym go, they hired me to do their Christmas parties.
Hey, hey, hey.
Yeah, and I was laughing because I was like, the only thing I ever sold was this show to you.
Dope. That's so dope to hear that, because a lot of times, people ask me, "When you gonna stop being a nurse?" And I'm just like, "When comedy forces me to."
Mhm.
I don't wanna sleep out of my car. I don't wanna be homeless, like, I'm not saying that that's the ultimate of what dictates success, but that's what a lot of people will,
Yeah.
they will portray. They'll be like, "Oh, yeah, Steve Harvey was slept in his car." I'm like, "God didn't tell me to do that,"
No, I
you
mean,
know?
it more I think that is trying to show their dedication and,
Right,
what they're willing to give, but you can make it without having to sleep in a car.
right.
I'm very much like that too. Like worked in when I worked in the oil fields is when I was making a lot of money and I bought everything that I needed. So I own a condo and all that stuff and made sure I had everything set up. And
Right.
then I started dipping into like, okay, let's try to be a comedian.
Mhm.
Cause you gotta love comedy because it definitely ain't for the money. 'Cause the amount of crazy shows I've done in weird places, you know what I'm saying? You could end up broke really fast if you don't know how to handle your dollar.
Exactly.
Fortunately, in Canada, like we have like a little sticker book of achievements that all headliners get, which is like certain festivals, there's one called CBC's Winnipeg Comedy Festival. That one's on national television. So if you get that one, that's a little feather in your hat. Then they have
Mhm.
Halifax, which is also on national television. And if you get that one, you got a little feather in your hat. Then of course, Just for Laughs.
Yeah.
Um, right? That's the biggest one, and then you get other little credits like in Canada they do know of the San Francisco comedy competition,
Okay.
and so I won that, and
Yes.
so that being the first black person to ever win it from Canada was like a really big deal. So these are the little things that I had to do on my resume that would
Right.
allow me to travel the country freely. So now
Yes.
at this point in my career, I don't even I don't even remember back when you used to like send out emails every month to try to get bookings with your avails?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Now
And
I'm at that point in my career now where I just get phone calls every month.
yeah.
And they're like, "Sterling, are you available? Sterling, are you available?" And I'm very happy with that. But I
Exactly.
wanna take it to the next level, which
Mhm.
is where you break that glass ceiling and you have your own following that comes and sees you wherever you are. Because once you have that power, you in my mind, you've made it. 'Cause,
Okay.
like, I was trying to break it down for the young comics. I was like, "The comedy club doesn't exist without the comedian, but the
Exactly.
comedian exists without the comedy club," right? Know your power because the manager, the agent, the booker, the comedy club, all of those things are jobs that are created from what your talent is. And the
Yeah.
thing that we've been sold on is that they're doing us the favor. They're not
Oh,
doing
you gotta
us the favor because if there is no us, there's no them. We
yeah.
are the ones doing them the favor, but we've been sold. We've been sold the lie. We became the pimp and the hoe, right? But during COVID, it opened my eyes to how much these organizations don't do nothing without us. So the
Exactly.
power is within us. A comedy club will pay you $100 to go do a night at a sold out show, right, with 400 people in the crowd. And the
Mhm.
comics would be like, "Yeah, that's great." And I'm like, "No, those 400 people did not come to see you. They came for the reputation of the club. So if you
Mhm.
crush, they'll just say that's what the club does. But
Right.
you will walk out that club and nobody will know who you are." Now, if you have a comedy show and you have 50 people who paid $10 a head, that's $500. 50 people who came to see you is more valuable than 400 who came to see you who came to the club. And so you see, once you learn to build that 50, then 100, and then so on, you become more powerful. If I could do 100 people in any city in America, I would never need the club again. 100 people at $20 a head is $2,000 a show. And I can promise you guys right now, if you're listening, comedians at our level do not get $2,000 a night for a club gig. I can promise you that. You'd be lucky if the whole week you get $2,000.
What I've learned in LA is like, it's a show business town. Doing a $20 spot, at a reputable club. But then those people that you most likely want to be seen by to get some TV deal aren't in the audience in those outer skirts, other states. But now you can turn your phone on and they can see you wherever, like you can
Exactly.
literally record your podcast, your web series, you can post your stand up. Like you're so accessible now that it makes sense to be your own business.
Yes, yes, and and that's the thing that I want a lot of these young comics to wake up and realize, because you know what I mean, a lot of them feel if they give their lives to the club that they'll end up making it, but the club is where you go to die. Like all that happens in the club is you just end up being a host in Canada. You know what I'm saying? In Canada, that's all that happens. You just end up being the host at the end of your career, and nothing happens for you. They just drain you of all your life and let you go. Uh,
Well, they're outliers, I mean, you're saying Canada, but I
Yes,
know, like,
I said in Canada specifically, because like for example, outside of Russell Peters, could you name one Canadian who does stadium tours? Just one, ever in the history of Canadian comedy.
oh,
Exactly, we've never had one. So our Canadian, like I said earlier, Canada has a really bad habit of not giving a platform for our comedians to become stars, which is why you saw me in LA. Actually, before the pandemic, I was actually looking for places. I was trying to find a place in the Valley.
move to LA.
Yeah, I was. Well, so I was staying with a friend. You know him, Keon Poli.
Yes, killing the game right now.
God, so happy for him. I met him when I was doing my first time doing the San Francisco comedy competition. I didn't win that year. Samuel Comroe, who is on America's Got Talent, won that year.
The stutter.
Again, that year. So in that year, it had Samuel Comroe, Guy, Matthew Broussard, and myself all on the same bill. So like I met him at that time and he was very young into comedy and he absolutely annihilated. And I was like, "Who are you, man?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I just started." And I was like, "I hate you. Like, how are you this good?" But again, we connected immediately. And so he let me stay at his house. Him and Keenan, oh man,
Uh,
I love those guys. And that's how I met Tony. So it started with and DC. So that whole clique is just, man, just brotherly love, man. Those people are genuinely good humans. I
no,
am
because
thankful to him. He let me sleep at his house for months at a time to just get my stuff together and never asked for $1 of rent. He wouldn't take no money from me. He would give me, this is how much this dude is a good dude. When I would leave for the road to go, like, say I was like staying at his house and I'm like, I'm going away for 2 days, he would make sure I had snacks for the road. You know what I
oh,
mean? What kind
nice.
of brother does that? That is a good man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
A man with kids, because you need snacks when you're on the road.
yeah. And so I was staying with him and I was trying to find a place. So I was looking for an apartment and our prime minister got on the news and said, if you are abroad, it is time to come home. And that's when I left. I was doing the Amazon Prime Laugh After Dark.
Uh-huh.
I was in LA to shoot that.
Okay.
And
Did you?
it was supposed to shoot March 27th, and on March 6th is when the world went to hell. And yeah, I had to come home. But yeah, I was in LA, and like I said, I was only in LA for a little bit of time, and I already seen there's progression in my career moving forward. I believe if the pandemic didn't hit, I would have definitely had a lot going on uh, in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, you were already, in the scene and you were already known. Like I did Red Clay Comedy Festival in Atlanta last year, and I got into Laughing Skull this year. Of course, they didn't have it. I did Big Sky Comedy
That's a great
Festival.
one. I hear a lot of good things about that one.
Yeah, and I feel like, I was just like, "Oh, I'm on my up, I'm on my upcline too, my incline too," because it was like I was starting to get into festivals that, were necessary, and I don't say necessary, but great festivals with that networking component. And also to be recognized as a talent. I made it to like the the finals in Big Sky where you perform in front of like in an auditorium
Yeah.
or theater, and that was the first time I did that, and it was like, I was just like, I was really feeling like, oh yes, things were happening, and then it was like, wait, hold on, we canceling Laughing Skull canceled, hold on.
Yeah.
And then I had a headlining gig in Chicago. No, all the clubs closed, and I was just like, I was ready. New York, I was like, ready to like, hit the pavement again.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, now I'm in the house now. I just like focus on writing and like producing my own stuff and then the podcast. I'm like, how could I stay connected? But
Yeah, that
that
was a lot of the first honestly, the first month, I just slept because I was tired. Because I'm a road comic, and when in Canada, a road comic is not just, I drove 2 hours on the weekend. No, I mean I drive 8 hours, get out the car, do the gig, get back in your car, and drive to another town. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a road comic, road comic. I do, all across the country driving. So I was never really home. I lived out of a bag most of the time because it was bags and hotels. Like I was that guy that I can pack a bag like nothing. You know what I'm saying? I know exactly what I need for exactly how many days, and you just be out there. And so when the pandemic hit, for the first time in my life, I didn't have anywhere to go.
Mhm,
And so I took the time to relax. And then after that, I had my little mini vacation, and then it came back, and it was like, okay, now how do we make this work in this new world? I was looking at all the other examples. I never really liked Zoom shows, but
mhm.
I was impressed that people were trying. You know what I mean? It's like you said, comedy requires that intimacy, and yet now we lost that part of the comedy because now you're just talking to a screen with no reaction, no people, no understanding, no grip of who are you dealing with. And what's worse is when you watch those Zoom shows and people just be staring at you, and you're just looking back at them. It's just weird.
Look, unmute yourself. Can somebody say something? Because I'm like,
Yeah, like, and they're just laying at home on their computer watching you like you Netflix. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not live, and so comedians had to learn different skills. I tried one. I didn't like it. Um, the people liked it, but there was no connection, no response, no call and response, and so I didn't understand what was happening, or I couldn't gauge because if something doesn't get a laugh, you could you pick that up. You go, okay, you don't like that, then okay, I'll switch and say this and whatever, right?
it's like throwing your cards down when you playing spades. Okay, you think I bam.
Yeah,
Huh.
you know what I'm
What?
saying? So, but that's it was just this new thing, and then I saw people doing podcasts. I started my own podcast. Huh?
I said, shout it out.
Oh, my podcast is called The Comedy Reject. It comes out once a week, and I have my dedicated 40 listeners right now. Every week, my 40 listeners tune in, baby, and I'm there for them, and I love them. I think it's hilarious that exactly 40 people come every week and tune in to hear me because you know what? Some people will be like, 40 people is not a lot of people, but you have to understand, man, that's 40 people who really are
Mess
my
with
fan. They really mess with me. They really care to be a part of whatever journey I'm on. And it makes me feel honored, to be honest. I feel honored that there's anybody listening to my stupid face.
you. I'm gonna check it out because I didn't know you did a podcast
Oh, it's
until.
brand new. I'm only 18 episodes in. So it's brand new.
Okay, well, I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. And I know you mentioned that you did a hour special and
Yeah, I've just recorded. So in Canada, in America, you guys have the Emmys for comedy. If you win an Emmy, it's a really big deal. In Canada, the equivalent is called the Junos.
okay,
And the Junos deadline submission for comedy albums is November 6th. Now, this is a pandemic, and not a lot of people have had crowds or stage time in order to develop an album. I was fortunate enough to get asked to do a festival in a city called Kamloops, British Columbia. That's where I am currently. I'm in Kamloops, British Columbia as I talk to you. And I just finished the CamCom Comedy Festival.
oh,
In that festival, they had a beautiful show. And I said, well, can I record my album there? Because they had an actual crowd. And I told them I'm going to record a corporate clean. For anybody listening, corporate clean is where when you perform for offices and stuff, you can't
Mhm.
swear or talk a lot about, sexual stuff, and it has to be
Yeah.
clean. It has to be something that you can play and everybody can listen to. So that's what corporate clean means. So I recorded a corporate clean album, and here's the reason why. Uh, I'm gonna submit it to try to win a Juno, but also I'm gonna open my own record label and I'm going to self produce my own album. And the reason why is because I don't know if people realize how much the record companies rob you when you give them your album. Like they'll take 50% of what your album makes for themselves just for releasing your album. And some take even more. It's insane. And so I was like, well, Prince said it best, own your masters. And so I'm going to open my own record label. It's called Sterling Records. And I'm going to release my first album on it. And it's going to be called Corporate Clean. And that's it. And I'm gonna release it in America as well as in Canada. And I have
Mm.
a lot of connections with Sirius XM, so I'll get it in circulation. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it cost me about $400 to
Right.
get it produced properly. And
Mhm.
I'm not just out here with a cell phone and recording trash. I have like a sound tech and mics and the whole nine.
Was it just audio that you
Yeah, this
recorded,
is
or?
a CD, just a CD for this one, because uh, CDs. And if you're a comedian listening to this, don't just put out a trash album when I say this, but a CD catalog will be what removes you from the working class. Because, believe it or not, a good album in rotation makes between $60 to $100,000 a year just from the spins on the radio.
Wow.
And so a lot of these comedians, and you're like, how are these people not working? Check their catalog. They probably have 4 or 5 albums.
Mm.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a guy in Canada, and his name is Ivan Decker. Ivan Decker is an amazing comedian. He won a Juno for his comedy album. He works only clean. So because he works only clean, his album gets played a lot on the American stations that only play clean albums.
Yeah.
His
It's been.
album uh, generates somewhere between 100 and 150,000 a year.
You better stop. I need to get my.
My album, my very first album. Now you see, there's certain ways you got to cut your album in order to get maximum spins. I'll tell you about that later. My first album, I did not know all the tricks of the trade on how to get your album played in high rotation, so I just recorded a performance and made
Mhm.
it an album. That album pulls in for me. Now, mind you, remember the record label takes 50%. Okay,
15 or
so
50.
I pull in from that album 15,000 a year,
Okay.
and it only gets 4 tracks played out of the 18 tracks. 4 of them play. 4 tracks are bringing me $15,000 a year,
That's dope,
and
Sterling.
and can imagine now if it was cut properly.
Mhm.
'Cause now I know, because I sat down with the people at SiriusXM and I asked questions and they explained to me everything. Step
Okay.
one is you can't just record it like a show, because a show you'll do callbacks, you'll do crowd work, you'll do all different kinds of things. You can't do that on an album, because
Okay.
on an album they play track for track. Now the next thing is that the tracks, the length of them has to be over a minute, under 3 minutes. Anything over that or under that doesn't get played. The next
Okay.
thing, you can't do callbacks, because the callback is not necessarily going to translate, because they're not going to play your whole album. So when the
Right.
callback happens, it's not going to work. So that joke won't get played now. So there's all those different kinds. You can't laugh a lot during your sets and between your jokes, and you can't step on your laughter. All these different kind of things, right? So it's very a good album is very robotically made, all right. But once it gets done, um, it can get all of the tracks played. You want to have it where all of your tracks are playing. And if it's
Mhm.
clean and it's funny, which it should be, it will not only get played on all the regular stations, but it'll get played on all the clean stations. And Laugh USA in America plays clean albums. And they also have what is Jeff Foxworthy. They have a bunch of those stations that only play clean albums, but they play them in very high rotation because there's not a lot of clean comedy albums. And
Okay.
so by doing that, you have it cut properly. You can get all your tracks played. You have a clean album that can play in both Canada and America on both the clean and dirty stations. You've now made that one album make
Yeah.
you $60,000 to $100,000 a year every
Man,
year, every year. And if
I
you own your
mean,
masters, you get 100% of that. And that's what I want people to understand when I say to them that you are the power, and that for too long people have been telling us that we need them and that they're doing us a favor. And I'm
yeah.
just dropping gems for you people listening so that you can see how to make this money.
Thank you.
Get
Thank
this
you.
money, man. There's so much money out there, and they act like they be collecting all these checks and looking at you like, oh, you're so lucky that I'm here for you. Meanwhile, they taking $60,000 to $100,000 out of every comedian's pocket that has an album.
Yeah. I mean, you giving a game, like for real.
Yeah.
And I think that it's dope to share something like that, especially since you have an experience with it because I do know comedians that make money off of their stand up and their albums. But then there's so many people that don't. And it's just like, why are you homeless? And like why are you, because you already have the talent and that extra step that you just mentioned and the work that it goes into creating something that can bring income in. I mean, it's dope to know that. Like, and it's something that I wish, people don't really tell you that because it's like,
Yeah, and I don't like that they hide these secrets. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, just like how I was sitting down in that meeting with the gym when they were trying to sell us on the idea so that we could sell it to them using the same tactics. When I sat down in the TV production rooms and I sat down in the pitch meetings and I sat down with the record labels, I didn't just sit there thinking, you know what I mean? What are they gonna do for me and how far are they gonna take me? I was like, where is their money coming from?
hmm,
How are you getting paid? Where are the
exactly,
checks coming from that you're cutting for me? And I started looking into it. And record labels are worse for music. You ever hear when people are like, oh, in music they lost a lot of money? What happened
yeah,
there is the record label will buy you out. They'll say, listen, I'll give you $1 million. But what that means is I'll give you $1 million and then I own that record that you're gonna make.
right,
So no matter how much records that sells, you get nothing.
yeah,
But what people don't realize is if somebody likes one song, just one song, and it's in heavy rotation around the world, that's creating millions,
yeah,
millions for that record label. But
yeah.
you
You
got the
still,
1 million. So you're sitting there with the 1 million, like, I did it. And they're like, yeah, you did, stupid. You gave it away.
oh wow, I mean, right there, for real, like that's the mic drop right there.
Yeah, don't let them do that. Prince, this is what Prince was saying when he said, "Own your masters." Listen,
Mhm,
young comics, take your time and make a quality album, okay? And when I mean make a quality album, don't rush out because I said all this money and now you're just like, I want to go out there and get that money. You know what I mean? Even if I can get 20,000 a year, that's great. No, 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 no. You want to make an album that represents you and stands the test of time. All
yeah,
right, don't do this for the dollar. Do it for the art. Okay,
mm.
like I'm doing this album.
How much money?
Yeah, it's hard to yeah, but at the same time, it's like please don't just rush because in Canada that happened. In Canada,
Yeah,
what happened was people found out how much money Canadian comics were making because there's Canadians that live in LA and they don't work very much. And so we were
mhm,
always like, how do you live in LA but you are not performing very often and you don't have a day job. Then we found out that low key these people had 4 and 5 comedy albums and we didn't even know how to start getting a comedy album, but they had 4 and 5 already. And so all the Canadian content that was playing is theirs. And so
now
go ahead.
is this method a universal method or
Yes.
is it just a
No,
specific?
universal. Universal. You can go to any record label and ask for a deal, and they will send you something that will say that they'll give you 50% for the performance, and then they'll take 50% for the production. That's what
Yeah.
you're gonna see, the production, and you're gonna see the artist. So they'll be like, you get 100% of the artist's revenue, but we'll take 100% of the production revenue. That's literally 50% of your masters is what they're taking, right?
Oh wow.
And no record label is going to give you less than that. I promise you that. Unless you're really in with them, they might give you like a 10 or 20%, but that's very rare. That's like the Master P deals and the Jay-Z deals. Most of the
Oh wow.
time they're not going to give you that. But if you release your own record label and you properly produce this album, then what you do is you take that album down to Sirius XM. You can go to New York and you can go right into the goddamn place. Trust me, I've done it. You can go right to Raw Dog. You can walk right into Raw Dog in New York and give them your album. And they will be like, do you want to go on the radio and talk about it, whatever? And then they will listen to it and put it in rotation. I have done that personally. So I'm not
Oh wow.
telling you guys a fairy tale. I did it in Canada. So in Canada, the guy's name is Ben Miner. I go to him directly. And in the US, I go through Sirius XM in New York.
Okay.
And that's what you do to get it started. And then you just keep doing that. Keep putting your things in rotation.
Yeah. So the one thing I think 2020 has taught a lot of us, I mean, we already knew it, but like the content is king. It's just like you having your own, producing your own, owning your own. And, like you just pretty much summed it up with like, if you have something that's sellable and that's yours, then you could reap the benefits
Yeah.
of what it will bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunate for you, you are a name that is known, and so, I wonder for those who aren't known, do you think that's still the best tactic to go by?
For those who are not known, there's two ways to be known. Okay, one, it's that you bring the following yourself. Any comedian that shows up with a following is a name. Nobody cares because comedy clubs are in the business of selling seats. They don't care if the person's funny or not. If a person's like, I eat potatoes on stage and 150 people are coming to watch, the comedy club is putting on the potato eating man over you. Okay?
Yes.
So you either do one of two things. There was a girl I met who had just started comedy. Her name was Jonica Booth. Um, and she showed up to crack him up with like 40 people.
Hmm.
And she's like, oh, I just started comedy. But she's big on Instagram, so her followers came out to the show. Guess who gets a spot? Jonica Booth, because you got 40 people in tow. You know what I'm saying? And then there was so it's either you got to build your audience if you're unknown, which means you got to really find a way to connect. Here's a tip that I used to do. Every comedy show I would ever do, before the show begins, I would get there early and I would put on every table like a little card that said, I'm the comedian and here's my Instagram handles, follow me. You know what I'm saying? And I would put that on every table. And when I'm on stage telling jokes, I would incorporate that those things on the table are to people to follow me. Like I'd write jokes that were like, this is why I'm not famous because you bastards won't follow me and shit like that. And
Okay.
I would build followers from every single show that I do. And
Hmm.
then I would throw independent shows monthly where it's all about me headlining. And my
Yeah.
little crowds, I would make them feel like anybody that's been to a Sterling Scott show in Canada, you can ask them. It's a vibe, man. It's not like it's a comedy show, but you feel like you're hanging out with your best friends.
Yeah.
And it's just one of an amazing moment. My fans are amazing people that love coming to the shows and love hanging out because of the energy that I give them. It's not just I'm on stage telling jokes. It's like I'm literally in the crowd for most of the show, shaking hands and talking to people, doing shots, handing out joints. I do a lot of crazy stuff. And
Mhm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
when we get on stage, they're like, that's our boy up there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you
Hmm.
could do that. That's step one, right? Which is bring your own fans. Okay.
Hmm.
I promise you, you walk into any comedy club and you go, I got 50 people that want to see me perform. They will find you a date. The second,
At night.
yeah,
You on right now?
the second step is to collect all the Pokemon badges, get all the credits, basically.
Mhm.
So, for example, the cookie cutter credits in Canada, like I had listed, the JFL, Winnipeg, Halifax, when nobody knows you, but they know what you've done, that'll open a door for you. So
Okay.
when I go to LA, when I first was going to LA, as much I would just sit there and I realized that all of my credits were Canadian and nobody knew what they were. And so I was sitting there with open micers, and the open micers think I'm an open micer, and I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm a grizzled veteran. I'm just I'm just from a different country. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to get the credits. So television appearances, TV appearances, you know, high ranking podcasts, um, a large Instagram following, which is sad to say, but if you have a strong Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook following, they will book you simply because they believe if you have 1 million followers and you promote on your network, that a bunch of people are going to come out to the shows when they come to your town. The
Yeah.
reality is, most of the time, it does not translate that way. But again, the people who are in control of us are not the one in the trenches. They don't understand that good comedy is all that brings in the people. So yeah, either collect the badges of credits, TV shows, TV shows, movies, whatever. Because if you're in a TV show, guess what? You're gonna get the headline. I
Yeah.
literally had to watch the dude from Stomp the Yard try to do comedy, and they gave him the spot simply the lead actor in Stomp the Yard, the light skinned dude.
Okay. I don't know you. I
There
don't
we
know.
go. Anybody listening to who knows Stomp the Yard, that's the one where Chris Brown got hit in the head with a brick and died. So the lead character in Stomp the Yard is not a comedian, but because he was in Stomp the Yard, they gave him a set, and he bombed terribly. But you know
Yeah.
what? He doesn't care because he'll still put him on again because he's the guy from Stomp the Yard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to
That's
get a TV credit, a movie credit,
yeah.
some kind of acting thing. If you get a high profile writing gig, like I remember when Sam J got SNL, and
Yeah.
that just after the SNL, it just locked in everything else. It just took off from there.
Yeah.
Thinking with Jay Farrow, or Jack Knight when he got all those people. As soon as they got a TV show, that was it. They're on headlining. All right. So those are the two major ways to get either TV movie credits or to bring your own following on your own through networking, promoting, and marketing. Like if you're a really good promoter and you know how to bring people out to see you, all right, do it. And then create your own shows and the people will come. And then
Yeah.
a third way is through social media. If you have a huge social media following, then people will then come and be like, yeah, that's a person who's big. Like if you have 1 million followers on Facebook, they're gonna put you on stage. So those are the 3 ways to do it if you're a young person trying to make a name for yourself. Get on TV, get a huge following, or be really great on social media. Those are the 3 ways I would say to do it.
I think you summed it up. I think you summed it up. And thank you for dropping those jewels on the processes of like making money off of your talent. Um Super dope. Like I'm like, I wanted to record my own album, but again, it's one of those things where like I was literally like, I'm still working it out. I'm still making it what I want it to be
Mm-hmm.
for the purposes of what you said, like, like being your own boss and working for yourself and paying your own self. But everybody knows that I am a nurse. That is my day job. And that's the background of the world that I come from. And I wanted to ask you, which is a part of the podcast, if you had any unexpected trips to the emergency room or any funny medical stories.
uh, Fortunately for me, I have not had that many incidences uh, of crazy stuff. Um, so for me, my most crazy trip to the doctor was. So here's how I found out I had twins.
I'm already laughing.
So I have 3 kids. I have a 10-year-old son and twin girls who are 3. And me and the mother separated. Before we separated, I never forget the day. Um, so we had separated, and then 6 months later, she calls me and she says, I'm pregnant. And I was like, I'm so happy for you. And she was like, "Oh no, it's yours." And I was like, "Oh hell no!"
Such a man thing to say. You know what?
Well,
Good
I was
luck.
like, "In 6 months, we haven't been together in 6 months." I literally was like, "Congratulations!" And she's like, "No, it's your baby." I was like, "I don't believe you." So then we go down to the office, and now I've only had one child, and there's only been one child in the womb, so I expected it to be the one child. So we go into the doctor's office, and on the screen they're like, okay, so this is baby A, and then this is baby B, and I go, why do you keep saying baby A and baby B? And she's like, you don't know? And I go, what do you mean I don't know? I don't what do I not know? What do I not know? And she's like, oh, you're having twins. And I swear to you, a patch of gray hair immediately formed in my beard. And
That's how.
I looked at my baby mom and I said, "You motherfucker!" Like I, I said that to her in the
Yeah,
office, and the doctor goes, "Do you guys need some time?" And I was like, "Nah, we good."
she knew that she was having twins,
Yes,
right?
she knew the entire time and never said anything to me.
Oh my God. So wait, you said you already had a child, right? And
Yes, we
then,
already had one child together,
uh-huh.
and then we separated. And 6 months later is when she called me and told me she was pregnant, and then we had twins. And
What was the call like? Like what was like well, you said you thought she was lying, right? You was like, congratulations, you moved on. I'm proud
yeah,
of you.
I mean, you can imagine not talking to somebody for 6 months. And then we talked, but we talked about when it's come to the child, right? Like, so it's like, hey, I'm picking him up and dropping him off. Like, we had the conversation, but I'm talking about like we never slept together.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to end up pregnant, you'd be like, what? This 6 months? There's a lot of time in between the last time we copulated.
Oh my God. And then to hold it from you for so long. Not no shade to her
No,
because
no
I don't.
shade to her. And to be honest, my twins are the joy of my life. And what's really
Mhm,
interesting is one of them. So they're twin girls. They're not identical. One came
mhm.
out light skin, and one came out dark skin.
Shut up.
Yeah, one's light skin. You can see them on my. If you want to see my babies, go check my Instagram. They're crazy little children, and I love them. Um,
Uh-huh.
uh,
Is the mom light skinned?
One is light skin and one is dark skin. The mom is light skin. Her mom is light skin. So one
Okay.
looks exactly like her mom, and the other one looks exactly like me. And the one that
That's
looks like me is mama's girl, and the one
uh-huh.
that looks like her loves me the most. It's very strange, man. And the one that looks like me is a lunatic. Like, she's just a ball of energy. But she's also has sentient women. Their brains are so much more advanced than boys. My 3-year-old daughter was jumping on the bed. Her bedtime is 8 p.m. The time, I swear to you, was 11 p.m. And I listening, I could hear her jumping on the bed. And so I open the door and I go to your bed. And she goes, I don't even want to be here right now. The only reason why I'm here is because mommy left me here. Call her and tell her to pick me up. And I was like, the way she said it was so matter of fact that I closed the door and apologized. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, wait a minute. No, what's that? What do you mean?
She checked you real quick.
Like, she did it like I ruined her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the one that was doing the party file. I was like, it's 11 p.m. and you're jumping on the bed in the dark. You're a lunatic.
She's like, give me some cookies and milk too while you
Yeah,
at it.
and it just blew me away. And then I called her mom. I go, who's teaching her how to speak this way? You know what I mean? These are toddlers. They're not supposed to talk to you like that. But yeah, like I said, I don't get sick very often. I've never
Uh-huh.
had the flu. The only thing I've ever had in the hospital is I sprained my wrist one time. That's about it. I've never been in the hospital ever.
So, well, like there's a difference in healthcare in Canada, though. Like, doesn't everybody gets it? That's what I
Yeah,
hear. Is
we
that
have
true?
universal health care.
Okay.
It's not the way people portray it, like this amazing. Like, if you get shot, you go to the hospital, they go take the bullet out, it's gonna be free. But if you have cancer, that's your ass. You know what I mean? You got to pay for that.
Oh wow.
Having a baby. Do you guys still have to pay for having babies in America?
I think you have to pay for insurance across the board, and then whatever your coverage is what it is. But I think if you don't have insurance, I mean, I think they have to, you know, deliver your baby safely. You just get a bill.
Yeah, no, we don't pay for that. We don't. You can go. You just have babies all you want. Just pop them right on out. Ain't no, ain't no charge for having babies. So having babies in Canada is free. If you wanted to go see the doctor, if I went and I signed up for a doctor and said, okay, you're gonna be my doctor. Every checkup I go to is free. Anything they prescribe is free, but the medication you got to pay for. So,
Okay.
like, do you pay to go see your doctor?
Yeah, I have a copay, but
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
insurance.
Well, then, yeah, that does suck for you guys, because like, yeah, no, we don't pay for any of that. No, you just have your health card, and you give them your health card, and then that's it. That's how you get it.
You just need to be a citizen of Canada to get the health
Yeah,
card.
you got to be a citizen. For the
Okay.
longest time, our health cards never had our faces on it. Like we didn't have ID. It was just a piece of paper. And Americans would drive up and use health cards of their family and friends.
Mhm. Oh,
To
yeah,
get-
definitely. Like, you're not checking, I'm
No, you're
using
not
it.
checking. They don't know. They don't, don't care. There's Americans I know that live in Detroit that have family doctors in Windsor because they cross the border and take their family's IDs.
It sounds dope. I mean, like, but you did clear up like what I thought. I thought it was just everything. You just confirmed that it's not
It's not
all.
perfect, but I mean, it's like we got to pay for your dental, you got to pay for cancer. You know what I'm saying? But like you're paying for the medication, you're not paying for your time in the hospital.
Okay.
You know
I
what I'm saying?
mean, that's still
Yeah,
because people put their houses up. Because my background is oncology, which is cancer, and you meet patients that like their insurance covers so much, but then they got to pay for all, and this hospital stays is everything. It's like
mm,
it's one of those things where like people put their house up, they sell everything, and they lose. Like it's really traumatic on top of being sick.
yeah.
Not
Like my
everybody,
father died of cancer, and fortunately, being in Canada, the only thing that he had to pay for was the medication. But the stress of going through cancer alone is enough to kill you. And to put on the pressure of losing your house and burdening your loved ones, that's insane.
yeah.
Because my father died in hospice care, and
Okay.
that doesn't they don't charge you for any of that. Like he stayed in hospice care for the last months of his life. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's we don't pay for any of that. There's no bills that come to you.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think it should be like that because my brother's actually a hospice nurse, and he like visits people when they're at home, and they're on their sick bed, on their transitioning stage.
Yeah, it's a very sad place to be.
It's like, who wants to hear, like, it's like we know they're here for dying peacefully or pain free at home with the loved ones, but who wants to deal with that and then be like, and here go your bill,
Yeah.
like,
Oh my
that's just,
God.
yeah, it sucks, but I'm sorry, that you lost your dad, and my condolences to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's cancer's a wild ride, man. I tell people just try to eat healthy. Uh, I mean, man, everything gives you cancer nowadays, but you just gotta watch your diet, man, because that's like a lot of the things that I was learning in his final days.
Hmm.
Is your diet's important, your activity, your life. You know what I'm saying how you carry yourself can help you prevent cancer. Uh, but it's a man, cancer is it's a rough one, man. I don't know how you do it, man. That's thank you for putting yourself on the front line because what you working in, man. I really hope one day they figure out how to cure it for real. But for right now,
Yeah.
that thing is ravaging and destroying us, man.
Yeah, it's like, so I lost my grandmother to throat cancer, and I think it was caused by smoking. And before I was a nurse, like, she was on hospice, and I would like read her books, and like, I would cook. I learned how to fry okra because she wanted fried okra. And it was just one of those things where you just care for the person there, and it's like an unconditional thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I became a nurse, it was I worked in pediatric oncology, and it was like one of those things where like if you don't know this world, if you haven't like lost somebody to cancer, or if you hadn't experienced it, like most of the nurses I worked with, some had personal experiences with it. Like I had nurses I worked with that were cancer survivors, and then I had people I worked with that lost family members, and I think that like that made it easier to care for people when they were sick, and it made it easier to understand, like,
Yeah, the pain, the journey, have the empathy required to allow you to, because they don't want to see people being sad and crying over them.
right,
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you got to be aware that sometimes the drugs might make them loopy. Sometimes they might be in pain. Sometimes they might be depressed. You know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
got to understand how to navigate. It's a wild ride, man. They're
yeah,
suffering every day. They're in pain every day. And yet, you know what I mean? Deep down, there's a little bit of hope that they might make it. And then some of them, there's no hope. That's a rough place to be.
yeah,
My dad put a do not resuscitate on himself because he said,
yeah,
I would rather die than do chemo again. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And like how crazy, how painful it must have been that he was like, nah, dog, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, you know what? And for those that don't know, do not resuscitate is when you say, like, if I stop breathing, then I don't want any more. I don't want, don't bring me back. Don't do anything to save my life. And with that, in me working in that field in oncology, for kids to say to their parents, like, I don't want to fight anymore. Those are the things that, like,
Ugh,
me as a nurse. But the thing is, there is so much joy, there is so much life, there's so much love, and it grounded me all the time. Going to work, like, I got dumped, and then I go to work and I got a new diagnosis of some type of cancer, and now I go in the bathroom and cry from being dumped, and then I got to straighten myself up because I got to, like,
yeah.
yeah, what I'm dealing with, can't touch that their life is about to change, everybody in that room, the parent, the patient, the family. It's so much more than people, you don't know, like, relationships fail because of
Yeah.
dealing with a sick person, and finances be messed up, and then it's the spirit and depression and
Ugh.
all the stuff.
Yeah, it's just a downward spiral. And
Yeah.
it's like you said, though, if you've gone through it, you know what I'm saying? The first ride is terrible. But then afterwards, you start to understand how to navigate and how to deal with the process, man. And you are a strong woman because you be dealing with children, you know what I mean? Because, like, I have, like, man, kids are the future. You know what I mean? When I see kids, I love children. I love kids, and to see a kid, being like, "I'm ready to go, man." Before, you know what I'm saying? They didn't even get to be an adult. They didn't even get to live out their dreams and stuff. That just crushes my soul. So the fact
Yeah.
that you are in the field to help these people, man, thank you. You are definitely a godsend.
Thank you. No, no, I'm good. Thank you. But I think that's what took me to stand up, because like the part of me that would be like, okay, like, people need more than just like, here's a pill, and it'll be like I remember, did I tell you, maybe it was you, that I would freestyle with patients?
Yes.
Yeah, and then it was like, just building relationships. I had patients offer me weed, like, they want to smoke with me. And that's the type of stuff. It's like, me, I'm the nurse. I'm not gonna be in here talking about, oh, you can't talk. I'm just like, I'm a roll you on in the garden downstairs, do what you need to do, and then then we gonna, it's like one of those things where it's like you become you like me being a nurse, like you become a part of somebody else's world and almost like a family to them when
Yes.
they're there so much. And like I have so many stories. Like I had a patient, just talking in on a higher note. I had a patient that had like that loved the flavor of what was Flavor in New York. Who was that? Flavor Flav.
Oh my God.
Remember,
Yes.
this was a Caucasian boy, surfer dude, come into the hospital, diagnosed with cancer. And, like me and him connecting off of watching Flavor of Love. Like, they just like being there acting a fool. And, and it's one of those things where it's just like, like that is the place to like make people feel like they not sick, like
Yeah, that's
it is.
beautiful.
And I think comedy helped me to, just to explore the other parts of me, to love life and to live life and express how I felt about, life
And
in another
that
realm.
gives life, man. I literally had one time, I'll never forget. So it was Christmas Boxing Day, actually, to be exact. It was Boxing Day at a comedy club, and I was headlining in Canada. And at the end of my little comedy show, I say, I sold my CD, and I was like, it's pay what you can. Whatever you feel this is worth is what I will accept. And there's a man, and he came, and he gave me $250. And I said, sir, I cannot take all this money. And he said, I was going to kill myself today.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched your show. And you made me laugh so hard. And you talked about, because I talked about a lot of different things. I talked about how my dad died of cancer. And I talked about how I cope and how I dealt with things. And he's like, I'm not going to kill myself. But this is all the money I have because this is what you're worth to me. You know what I mean? And this is everything I have. And
Why you giving
take
me
this.
fun?
And I was like, okay, because I still have bills to pay. So I took the money, but like laughter, the laughter that we get from our pain relieves the pain of the in the lives of other people.
Yeah.
And so it's great that we're able to have this art, this talent, this ability. And I'm thankful for the ability because I'm just like, man, how lucky is it that I just happen to be English speaking and live in a country where comedy is an actual form of making a job. Like if I lived in Russia, I'd just be dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like I'm thankful that I have this talent and that I have this talent and I can utilize it in a place where it can be monetized and allow my passion to also be my career. So I am thankful every day for the fact that I can make people hee hee and ha ha.
Well, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful I got to meet you. I'm thankful for you being on the show. And we're gonna wrap up because we are out of time.
Yeah. Well, that just shows how good of a conversation it was, man.
Thank you so much for dropping them jewels. I can't wait to see you in real life.
Well, as soon as these borders open back up, I'm coming right the hell back because I do miss you. I do miss all of you, and I miss LA.
Well, tell us in the meantime. Tell us, where we can find you.
So you're gonna. All right. So, like I said, my album Corporate Clean will be released in November. So look out for that on Spotify and iTunes and all your major streaming networks. It's a very good album. It's a combination of all my cleanest jokes put together in one hilarious hour. I also have my podcast, The Comedy Reject. Give it a shot, man. It's where I come down and you just get just tune in, you'll hear. It's a wild talk. The Comedy Reject is best described as what it's like to be my friend and hear what I've done for the day. And also my follow me on Instagram at Sterling's Jokes, or on Twitter, which is also Sterling's Jokes, or on Facebook, Sterling Scott the Comedian, or Comedian Sterling Scott. Follow me in any of them places, and you know what I'm saying? I hope to see you guys in a crowd laughing one day.
Hey, well, y'all follow Sterling. Look, Seattle brought us together.
Yeah, it did. Seattle brought us together, and comedy kept us there.